Now we're going to read another Mulla Nusruddin tale called Boys' Games.
Mulla Nusruddin walked along the field on his way home from the mosque. It was Eid al-Adha, the festival of sacrifice. He thought about a time long ago when history had not been invented and the people remembered everything through stories. The mullah loved stories.
Especially this one.
He loved the way they brought events to life. As he walked, he saw a group of boys playing balls and stopped to watch them.
Salam Khoja, they shouted, pausing their game. Will you play too?
The mullah laughed. Thank you, he replied, but I'm too old to run about like you youngsters. Though I swear if my old body could keep up, I would join in.
The boys gathered round the mullah. It is the festival tomorrow, they said. Tell us the story of Ibrahim and Ismail. The mullah was pleased to be asked. He straightened his turban and began to tell them the story of how God commanded the prophet Ibrahim to sacrifice the life of his only son Ismail. With a heavy heart, Ibrahim closed his eyes and did as he was told, but when he opened his eyes again, he saw that it was a goat he had sacrificed and not his son. So he passed God's test with flying colors.
Such is the grace of God, said Mulla Nusruddin. And do you know that story is told by people all over the world?
The boys clustered closer on the mullah. So it was a goat's head and not his son's head that Ibrahim cut off?
That's right, the mullah replied.
Aren't heads and turbans more or less the same thing, said another boy.
The mullah looked at the cheeky faces around him and decided it was time to walk on. As he turned to go on his way, he felt a sudden rush of air as his turban was snatched from his head. The next moment, the boys were running about the field, tossing it from one to another. The Mulla Nusruddin ran after them, shouting angrily, chasing them up and down as fast as his old legs would go.
Lost your head, have you, Mullah? The boys teased as his turban whirled past him again and again and again. Is this your sacrifice for the festival?
Okay. And these boys are not being nice to Mullah, playing with his turban. Okay. At last, Mulla Nusruddin saw the funny side. He wasn't sure he wanted his turban back now. After the way it had been treated, it was grimy and dirty and not fit to be worn. He tidied himself up and began his trek back home. As he entered the square where he lived, people noticed his turban was missing.
What happened, Khoja? Asked his nosy neighbor Anwar. Hi everyone! Now we're going to read another Mulla Nusruddin tale called A Fair Reward.
Mulla Nusruddin had travelled for days. He was tired and dusty and his bones felt sore. He distracted himself by imagining wonderful places and hospitable people who gave him delicious food, steaming hot and fragrant. Thinking of the things he loved made the road seem shorter. As he trudged along, his mind lingering on his favorite things, he arrived at a gate of a large town.
That worked well, he thought. My thoughts gave me wings.
The mullah walked on, his eyes scanning all the buildings until finally he arrived at the doors of a smart-looking bathhouse. As he pushed them open, two attendants came forward to meet him.
I'm a stranger in town, the mullah said to them. I've been traveling for days and I'm desperate for a bath.
We can see that.
The attendants muttered.
They looked him up and down, nudging each other at the sight of his shabby clothes and his torn shoes. When Mullah took off his turban, they raised their eyebrows at his matted hair. When he removed his shoes, they held their noses as if to say his feet were smelly. The mullah ignored them, as he always ignored bad behavior, and stood waiting until finally they handed him a bit of dried up soap and a worn, tattered towel. Then he plunged himself into the bath. The water was warm, and he bathed. He could feel his weariness wash away. The water carried his weight and lapped around him. His muscles began to relax, and the aching of his tired bones eased. When at last he was done, Mullah Nasruddin got out of the water and returned the towel and what was left of the soap. Then he dropped a shiny gold coin into the hand of each attendant. The man stared, rubbing the coins to see if they were imagining things.
Only a fool would reward someone for such poor service. One said one. What would he give us if we paid him more attention? Let's just hope we get that chance,
Said the other.
said the other.
Okay, you will, the mullah resolved as he stepped into the fresh air outside. A week later, Mullah Nasruddin returned to the bathhouse. The two attendants recognized him immediately, and this time they behaved very differently.
Okay, so we look at the illustration how the attendants did the very first time. See, they are holding their nose and this is our mullah taking hot bath.
They smiled and bowed. They gave him thick, soft towels decorated with dainty stitches and a long cloth of the softest stain. Satin. They fetched the finest loofahs kept especially for the town's nobles, and they scrubbed and rubbed his body before massaging him with exquisite healing oils.
Exquisite healing oils. When the mullah had been cleaned and pampered to his satisfaction, he dressed himself and turned to reward them. He pressed a coin into each of their hands and stood back. The men opened their hands with excitement, but then their faces fell. On each palm lay the tiniest copper coin you could find.
What's this? Stammered the two men in shock.
And the mullah replied, "This is for last week. The gold coins were for today."
Okay, so here are the two attendants of the bathhouse with the tiniest copper coins. Mullah is sure smart.
So that's the end of the story. Bye.
The mullah replied, "Oh, I passed some boys playing in the field, and guess what? My turban remembered what it is like to be young and decided to stay and join in."
So you can see the boys are playing with his turban, and Mullah
couldn't get his turban back from the boys, but when he was asked that where his turban was, he again gave a smart answer that his turban wanted to join in the game. Okay, so that was the reason that he was without his turban.
I hope you like the Mulla Nusruddin tale. Please subscribe to my channel. Bye.
And his presence of mind. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye.